Hi, I'm Mark Shevitz, and this sleek beauty is the newest version of the Porsche 911, the 997. The most successful sports car in the world, the 911 has been continuously improved over the last 40 years. But back when the Porsche Club of America was born, the 911 wasn't even a gleam in Ferry Porsche's eye. The year was 1955. The car was the 356, very much like this one from 1963. There were very few of them in the United States. Happy to meet another Porsche on the road, owners blinked their headlights at each other in greeting. But what really brought Porsche drivers together back in the 50s was a need to find a way to take care of these rare little jewels. Bill Scholar, a commercial artist in the Washington, D.C. area, was the man who pulled it all together. A news item in the August 1955 issue of Sports Cars Illustrated invited interested Porsche owners to contact Bill. In the meantime, he petitioned the Porsche company for recognition of what he decided to call the Porsche Club of America. When the club was born at Blackie's Grill in Alexandria, Virginia, on September 13, 1955, 13 people showed up, but dwindled to 12 when the Volkswagen owner was asked to leave. Elected president of the fledgling club, Scholar was the galvanizing force behind most of PCA's critical early decisions. He created a logo, invented a badge, and before the end of 1955, had introduced a magazine designed to fit in the glove box of a 356. Porsche Panorama appeared in December 1955. By then, PCA had 80 members. The key purpose of what was really just a newsletter at the time was to share hard-to-come-by technical information, and it remains a core element of the magazine today. Up Fixin' Der Porsche was what they called the tech column back then, and it was by far the most popular feature in the 1950s. In its first year, PCA dreamed big. The first Porsche parade was staged in Gaithersburg, Maryland in the fall of 1956, and the club has been gathering every summer since. It was called a parade that year because it actually included a parade through the streets of the town, and the name stuck. 64 PCAers gathered for the three-day weekend that offered technical tips from factory personnel, a rally, and a gymkhana, a kind of trick driving event that could involve everything from backing into a pylon box blindfolded to balancing an egg on a spoon. When they weren't working on their cars, PCAers were playing with them. The first PCA rally was a time-speed distance contest that started at the Jefferson Memorial, paused for drag test at Old Dominion Racecourse at Manassas, and finished with a gymkhana where one competitor was trying so hard not to collect penalty points that he forgot to come to a full stop at the finish, happily passing the startled timer at full throttle. As more and more Porsche drivers joined from outside the Washington area, regions were formed in other communities. The original group became Potomac Region, and by the end of 1959, there were 25 regions of PCA scattered from New York to Hawaii. In 1958, Scholar organized the first PCA Treffen. The club chartered a Lufthansa Super Constellation for a 3-week trip to Stuttgart and Murano, Italy, the trip of a lifetime for 80 PCAers. Virginia Scholar, alongside Ferry Porsche, cut the ribbon at Solitude Castle, allowing PCAers to reach their 45 new cars. From Solitude, they took off in every direction to Paris, Brussels, the Riviera, agreeing to meet a week later in Murano. Bill and Virginia Scholar led the way for the American contingent's arrival at Murano for the international meeting of Porsche drivers. Nearly 350 Porsches from all over Europe welcomed the 45 PCA cars for a week of Tyrolean fun and competition. And if the days were full of activities, the nights were celebrations. Dorothea Porsche, the wife of Ferry Porsche, danced with Bill Scholar before she presented a gift to Virginia. The bond between the Porsche family and the Porsche Club of America, forged in these early meetings, still endures today. Porsche Panorama, October 1963, announced the arrival of the successor to the 356. And no, that's not a 4-inch typo on the cover. Introduced at the Frankfurt Auto Show, Porsche's new car made headlines around the world, especially at Peugeot, who claimed the trademark rights to all model designation numbers with a 0 in the middle. Porsche renamed their new car the 911, and the rest is history. By the way, in that issue of Panorama, you could buy a 1955 Speedster for $850. With parades, treffins, and a magazine, PCA was in high gear. When the 911 made those first headlines, PCA had nearly 3,000 members, and Panorama had grown to 24 pages per issue. As Porsche owners found each other across the country, new regions were born. In the decade of the 60s, 50 new regions were created, bringing the total to 75. By the mid-1970s, PCA had passed the 12,000 member mark, and 3 new Porsches had appeared. The 914 Roadster made its U.S. debut in 1970, causing much consternation among Porsche enthusiasts. Simple but sophisticated mid-engine design demonstrated its Porsche DNA, but the VW-based engine and marketing program caused some to question its authenticity. Today, those arguments have long since been settled for a car that continues to be unbeatable at Porsche parade driving events. Then, in the spring of 1977, Porsche introduced the radically different front-engine, water-cooled V8 928, and Panorama reacted by producing its first-ever wraparound cover. And as the Porsche model program expanded, so did PCA. The decade of the 1970s brought 37 new regions, including Alaska and the first chapters of PCA in Canada, bringing the total to 112. By the end of the decade, membership had topped 15,000, and a new series of Porsches were about to make their debut. In 1983, the 944 was the catalyst that caused PCA membership to explode. The front-engine, water-cooled, 4-cylinder big brother of the 924, which had appeared in 1976, the 944 was the right car at the right time for many PCAers. Price, performance, and good looks all combined to make it standing room only at the dealerships, and PCA membership leapt past 20,000. For more than a decade, the water pumpers, culminating with the powerful 968, were best sellers for Porsche and remain favorites for many club members today. For PCA's 30th anniversary, Panorama celebrated with a 188-page special edition featuring interviews with Porsche celebrities like Porsche's legendary race boss Huschka von Hanstein and R&D chief Helmut Bott. Racing drivers Bob and Al Holbert were contributors. The Porsche Parade that year was a glamorous event in Costa Mesa, California, where even the Concours judging was black tie. More than 1,000 PCAers gathered for a week of Porsche fun, and sometimes it seemed that they were all in the goodie store at once. The decade of the 1980s brought 16 new regions to the club. Now, 128 individual chapters covered the continental U.S., Alaska and Hawaii, Canada, and Germany, and membership was reaching for 30,000. When the Boxster was revealed to the world at the Detroit Auto Show in 1993, Panorama, now a full-color, 116-page magazine, was there for the big event. A thoroughly modern sports car, the Boxster resonated with Porsche's legendary racing spiders, and PCA responded. 14 more regions would come on board in the last decade of the century. The first Porsche parade held outside the United States drew PCAers to Mont Tremblant and the beauty of Quebec. Through all the years, the 911 has remained the perfect Porsche, a never-ending story on the track, on the road, and on the showground. In 1995, the air-cooled car had its last makeover in the elegant 993. Then came the 996 with its radical new water-cooled engine and shape. Today, it's the 997, and the beat goes on. With every square foot of the United States occupied, only 4 regions have been added in the new millennium, stabilizing at 139 individual chapters of PCA. Membership has topped 50,000 and is still growing. But it's not just the cars, it's the people and what they do with their cars.
Technical support is one of the 3 or 4 major things that the club provides its members. And at the local level, there are many tech sessions that are held. People get together, they learn how to maintain their cars, they get expert advice. The factory supports us with that occasionally, providing materials for us. And we have a national tech committee that is one of the finest resources in the club.
and we've made such good friends along the way. As the years passed, we came to know the people whose names are Porsche. Ferry Porsche walked among us often, signing autographs for young enthusiasts, chatting with club members, and enjoying the 1966 parade in Colorado Springs with wife Dorothea. At Lake Geneva in 1972, he gave some advice to PCA President Charles Kuehl, and in San Diego accepted an authentic squash blossom necklace from Tom Hauser. In 1969, in Anaheim, California, Ferry's son Ferdinand Alexander Butzi, the man who designed the immortal 911, was guest of honor with his wife Brigitte. Youngest son Wolfgang and his wife Susanna still join us often. In 1984, PCA President Hank Malter traveled to Stuttgart to present a 75th birthday present to Dr. Porsche. From the beginning, the finest form of pleasure. Thank you from the Porsche Club of America, says the bronze sculpture PCA commissioned for the special occasion. Today, it is displayed in the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart. Who could forget Porsche's great race boss and public relations chief, Huschke von Hanstein? Certainly not the folks at the parade in West Palm Beach, where Mrs. von Hanstein shocked the ladies by wearing her pearls into the ocean. And certainly not the members of Peach State region, who made him their first honorary member when he came to a breakfast meeting in 1968. When Porsche President Ernst Fuhrmann came to the Aspen Parade in 1978 with his wife Elfriede, the designer of the famous four-cam Carrera engine did more than socialize. Coming upon a stranded 911, he stopped and helped Jim and Billy Henry get their vapor-locked Porsche going. Can you imagine Henry Ford II pulling over to see what he could do about a stalled Mustang? By the 1980s, Porsche had an American president. Peter Schutz brought a fresh approach to management in Germany. He was right at home at PCA parties with his wife Sheila and daughter Lori. PCA members, racing their Speedsters and Spyders, helped create Porsche's legend in America. Bob Holbert and Roger Penske at Sebring, Bruce Jennings, aka King Carrera, and his Carrera Speedsters, Peter Gregg and Hurley Haywood and their unforgettable 911 RSRs. Mark Donohue, always ready to come to a PCA meeting, set the racing world on fire with the 1,100 horsepower 91730. Al Holbert took up where his father left off, making the Lowenbrow 962 the most famous race car of its day, in a field that included Bob Aiken and the Coca-Cola 962 and Bruce Levin's cars. Today, professional drivers David Murray and Patrick Long are PCAers, competing at the top with Porsche 911 GT3Rs. Of all the friends we've met along the way, Peter Porsche best demonstrates the strength of the ties between the club and the Porsche family. For more than 3 decades now, his annual visits have underlined the mutual respect that exists between us. And besides, Peter is just fun to be around. Everything Porsche Club of America does comes together at a Porsche parade. The things we do as regions, our tours, driving events, social occasions, tech seminars, and club racing are magnified into one great week every summer.
The purity of the idea is, I think, what really appeals to virtually every Porsche owner on some level or other. A Porsche just feels right.
This is our first parade, and so far it's been awesome.
It's a 1964. It's the last one that was built by the factory.
Either you're supposed to make it as perfect as you can make it, or you're supposed to make it like it came out of the factory.
One thing I've tried to do on this car is perfectly do some of the imperfect things they did on the car, if that makes any sense.
It's autographed.
This is what they're making fun of.
They are a gas to drive. They are so much fun. And when you're driving a speedster at 55 miles an hour, you get more excitement out of that than driving, virtually anything else at 80 or 90.
But there's a couple of sections where there's some real hard braking with tight turns after that at the end of those straights. You're going to see some dust clouds in the next couple of days.
We brought our 2 little boys with us this time, and it's a ball with the kids. And
29-27.
I won my first class when I was 18.
The camaraderie is something that is even more important than the car.
This is not a competitive event.
Just through being involved with the cars, 2 people from very different, places and backgrounds have become best friends. They've become lifelong friends.
Okay, would you please open your car up for us?
Correct. I know. In about another 3 weeks, we're going to sit there and say we're so glad that it's over and I'm never going to do it again.
Well, it is what it is, Tom.
And in about another 12 weeks, we start to sit around saying, you know what? The friendships that I made and the fun is becoming more apparent now. When it's time to re-register for parade, you sign the form, you send your check-in, and then the race begins.
No one can say where the next 50 years will take us, but we know the cars will be exciting, and the Porsche Club of America will find new ways to enjoy them. And as the keys to the Porsche are passed to new generations, the special friendships reaching across the cars and the years will grow and endure.
We've never done more than we're doing this year. And I see that continuing because of the camaraderie of the people and because of the willingness of all of our members to pitch in and help and make things happen at the local level. Because the club really is a local organization spread all over the country. And so the particular programs that might come about in the next 20 or 30 years are surely unpredictable. It'll be what our members want. It'll be driven by their friendship and the wonderful cars that we ride. I don't know what the new cars will be, but we will surely welcome them and enjoy them and make more friends.
What happens if you go out of the cone?
You have to go back to your dad.
Well, there you have it, 50 years of Porsche Club in less than 45 minutes. As you can tell, we've barely been able to scratch the surface of everything that is Porsche Club. But we know we've jogged your memory, and hopefully we've brought a smile to your face. And so we now begin our next 50, filled with everything from driving to social events, tech information to parades. But most importantly, it will continue with the 2 things that existed when Bill Scholar started the club 50 years ago: wonderful people and their love of Porsche automobiles. Thanks for watching.